Hello, the government admitted today the eastern region will play a vital role in closing the national energy gap. The race is on to build more wind farms on land and at sea.
It seems Britain has a stark choice: either develop new sources of energy or rely almost entirely on overseas countries for oil and gas. In this region, vast sums are being invested in wind power, including millions of pounds of taxpayers' money to subsidise the industry. Today, our newest offshore wind farm at Gunfleet Sands off the coast of Essex received an official opening and a promise that this is just the beginning.
A view from the air of what you get for £500 million. Gunfleet Sands is the region's newest and biggest offshore wind farm, just 4 miles off Clacton.
The 48 turbines at Gunfleet Sands produce enough electricity to power 125,000 British homes. We are contributing to the UK target for carbon-free electricity.
1,000 workers took 2 years to build this wind farm. This is only the second offshore wind farm to become operational in the region. It's 6 years since the first one opened. But after all the delays, the industry is starting to get its act together. Scroby Sands opened in 2004. Today, Gunfleet. Sheringham Shoal is due to come on stream next year, followed by Greater Gabbard in 2012. Today, Energy Minister Charles Hendry officially opened Gunfleet Sands at a ceremony at Frinton. This wind farm was built by Denmark's state-owned energy company. The turbines and offshore substation were made in Denmark, although undersea cables were made in the UK.
Yes, I think as the industry develops here in Britain, and Britain will be the country with the biggest amount of offshore wind parks, more and more of the construction will take place in the UK. I know Siemens has just decided to move some of their factories here, and I think we'll see more of that.
The addition of Gunfleet Sands means Britain's existing offshore wind farms now produce 1 gigawatt of electricity, enough power for 700,000 homes. The region is leading the green energy revolution. Richard Bond, BBC Look East, Essex.
Well, that's the picture offshore, but the demand for wind power has also triggered a spate of applications to build wind farms in the countryside, and for some that's a price too high to pay. Opponents argue that large-scale development will disfigure the landscape. In other words, they're ugly. They also say turbines are an expensive way to generate energy because each turbine receives a public subsidy of £138,000. And government figures suggest they only operate at 27% of capacity because of the variation in weather conditions. Our chief reporter Kim Riley has been assessing the mood of ordinary people confronted with plans for a wind farm on their doorstep. Kim.
Yes, I'm at Pulham Market, Susie. Now, this part of South Norfolk, you don't have to go very far before you see signs objecting to giant wind turbines. Just here, around here, TCI Renewables want to put up 3 giant turbines. They say the plans tick all the boxes. Well, we'll pop into the pub in a moment and see what the local action group says about that. But I've actually spent the day just a couple of miles away at Tivitchel, where another company is planning to catch the wind. Until now, the ruins of St Mary's Church have been the dominant feature of the landscape around Tivitchel, but maybe not for long.
These are the 3 positions of the 140-metre turbines, and that for the likes of myself is 460 foot.
Some 500 local people have joined together to fight plans for the wind farm first mooted 2 years ago. A test mast measuring airspeed is already in place.
I think the most important thing to us, all of us in the villages here, is that this is a green lung. This is where we take our recreation, have done for generations. I mean, horse riders, for instance, with turbines of this magnitude, this close to the bridleways, most of them won't be able to ride.
It would just put an end to our recreation, and we're always being told to get out, aren't we, and exercise, and they're not actually helping us if they put these things here.
You know, if the turbines are going to be there, well, I can see I shan't be going out.
Ian Henson and his family live at Primrose Hill Farm, the nearest house to the site. Their idyllic outlook under threat.
We bought the property 5 years ago to renovate, and we're investing a lot of our time and money in the property. And yes, it would it would have a seriously detrimental effect on the property and our enjoyment of it.
The farm and turbines as seen in a photo montage created by disc-based Enertrag UK. It's prepared a detailed environmental impact report for South Norfolk planners.
It's an excellent site, it's elevated land, there's not too many properties around. There's going to be some objections for some properties, unfortunately that's the way of life. However, it is a very, very good site, we've got a good grid connection, we've got a reasonable wind resource.
Are you optimistic you'll get permission?
If common sense prevails, yes.
The company is pledging thousands of pounds to a trust fund to benefit the local community. Are they tempted? For many, the answer is no. Well, I popped into the Crown. Let's talk to Terence Blacker from the Four Villages Action Group. Are you just being a load of NIMBYs here? Are you objecting to, what, power, clean power for 3,500 homes?
We've got no objection at all to renewable energy. We think, but obviously one has to take that very, very seriously. But it's the wrong application in the wrong area. This is an area between 4 villages. It's a lovely, unspoilt piece of countryside, and our argument is simply that if one wants to take global warming seriously, these developments have to be in the right place. The countryside is very, very precious. It's a precious resource for all of us.
Very quickly, how determined are people to fight these plans?
People from every background, people who've lived here all their lives, people who've moved here, they love this area, they love the peace. It's an uncluttered piece of countryside, and they're going to fight very, very hard. They're going to fight every inch of the way to defeat this application.
Terence, thank you very much indeed. I can tell you that these applications will go before planners in South Norfolk, and we're expecting a decision sometime in the autumn.
Kim, thank you very much. Well, earlier this afternoon I spoke to the Energy Minister Charles Hendry. I put it to him that the wind industry received £400 million in subsidies last year. Given its current limitations, was that the best use of taxpayers' money?
Well, if you have a look at the energy challenge facing us, it's the biggest energy challenge of our lifetimes, that we have to rebuild our energy infrastructure in the course of the next few years. We need to achieve £200 billion of new investment. Most had private sector money, but we've got to achieve an incredible amount of investment if we're going to keep the lights on. Most of our coal plant is closing down, most of the nuclear plant is closing down, our oil plant is closing down. We have to rebuild our energy infrastructure. And to be secure in that, then the best way which we can do that is by making sure we're not increasingly dependent on imported resources from other countries.
But in these constrained financial times, wind is 50% more expensive per unit than nuclear.
But then if you look at the constraints in terms of timing, that the earliest a new nuclear plant can be built, if it's built at all, will be the very, very end of this decade, 2018, 2019. We can be having a rolling out programme of new wind farms off our coastline. We can be developing our marine renewable technologies, leading the world in the development of those technologies. We can be rolling that out of a much, much quicker timescale. We don't have time on our side. We can't wait until the end of the decade to start getting new plant coming on side. If it's not to be renewables in this way, overwhelmingly the investment will go into gas, and that we're now becoming importers of gas. By 2020, 80% of our gas will be imported, and that is not a sustainable, secure position to be in.
Obviously, you're at an offshore wind farm today, much more expensive option than an onshore wind farm, but those are still proving very unpopular with local people, aren't they?
I think there's much more support for the offshore wind farms. What we're trying to look at as well is how we get a different relationship between communities and wind farm operators onshore. We think there is a role for them onshore, but too often the local community doesn't see the benefit for them. That's why we said we want to look at ways in which the business rates, for example, can be kept local. Many, many thousands of pounds a year going directly into that local community and recognising the contribution they're making in hosting that facility. Where the people who live nearby can be given reduced electricity charges. We're looking at that as another option as well. So the areas which decide to host the wind farms really feel that they are having some benefit from hosting something which is for wider community benefit.
Charles Hendry talking to me earlier. Later on,